Constant in sprint car racing was Donny Schatz in the TSR 15. It was the law of nature. And then, in the span of a week, the laws of nature got thrown out the window. A dynasty ended, a legend is in a new ride, and the shockwaves are still being felt across the pit area. And that was just the beginning. I'm Russ Fritz telling you to strap in tight, because this isn't just racing, this is Switchin Grooves. This isn't just a driver changing teams. This is the end of an era that has defined modern sprint car racing. A seismic shift that has sent shockwaves from the pit lane to the grandstands. Today we're going to dissect this monumental breakup. We'll look at the key figures whose fates are now intertwined. Donny Schatz, the displaced king searching for a throne, and Tony Stewart, the legendary owner closing a historic chapter, as well as Kerry Madsen, the veteran journeyman handed the keys to the kingdom, and Todd Kerry of Big Game Motorsports, the power broker providing the sport's biggest star a new home. The central questions are immense. Why now? What really happened behind the closed doors of the TSR hauler? And what does this earthquake mean for the entire landscape of the sport? This is the anatomy of a dynasty's end. The official announcement: the news broke with a kind of sterile professional language reserved for corporate mergers or political resignations. A press release hit the wire. Donny Schatz and Tony Stewart, otherwise known as TSR, had parted ways effective immediately. The key phrase, the one repeated by all parties, was mutually agreed. Tony Stewart himself echoed it in a video statement released shortly after, stating, "We mutually agreed to make a change." That phrase, mutually agreed, is the official story. It's the handshake for the cameras, the respectful nod to a shared history. And what a history it was. This partnership, which began all the way back in 2008, wasn't just successful, it was dynastic. It set the standard for an entire generation of sprint car racing. To understand the weight of this split, you have to understand the empire they built together. Before 2008, Donny Schatz was already a champion, but his pairing with Tony Stewart's formidable organization created a juggernaut unlike almost anything the sport had ever seen. The numbers are staggering, and they bear repeating because they form the bedrock of this legacy. Together, Schatz and TSR captured 10 World of Outlaws championships. They drove into victory lane an incredible 230 plus times in World of Outlaws competition alone. Schatz has 11 Knoxville Nationals titles to his name, the sport's most prestigious event, with the majority of those victories coming behind the wheel of the TSR 15. They were the New England Patriots, the New York Yankees, the benchmark against which all others were measured. Even in their public parting, the respect for that shared history was evident. Stewart, in his video message, made it clear, "We've had a very successful run together. I'm proud of what we've accomplished." Schatz echoed the sentiment in an official release, saying, "I am grateful to Tony for the opportunity to drive for him. We had an amazing run together." This was the public face of the breakup, respectful, appreciative, and final. But in racing, as in life, when a partnership this long and this successful ends so abruptly mid-season, mutually agreed is rarely the whole story. The timing is the first clue. Championship caliber teams don't just decide to make a change in the middle of a grueling national tour unless there is an immediate and pressing need. End of season requirements or negotiations of a contract are the norm. A mid-season divorce, is an anomaly that demands a deeper look. The subtext here is performance. While Donny Schatz was still winning races and running near the front, the era of absolute, unquestioned dominance had begun to fade. The consistency that defined those 10 championship runs had become more elusive. The team was searching for something, a spark to return to that pinnacle. It appears that the search led to the conclusion that the existing combination had simply run its course. This wasn't likely a single explosive event, but rather a slow erosion of that magical chemistry, an acknowledgement from both sides that to get back to where they wanted to be, they might need to do it apart. You can see the different perspectives in the video statements released by both men. Tony Stewart appeared somber, almost funeral. His message was reflective, focusing heavily on the past accomplishments and his pride in what they built together. It felt like a eulogy for a partnership, the words of a man closing a major chapter in his life. Contrast that with Donny Schatz's demeanor. In his interview, he was direct, forward-looking, and far less sentimental. His key phrase wasn't passive, it was active. It was time for a change. He spoke of being excited for what comes next. When you compare the two, a picture begins to form. A person looking backward is often reacting to a change, while a person looking forward is often the one driving it. The evidence suggests that while the decision was framed as mutual, it was likely driven by Schatz's desire to find a new environment, a new combination of people and equipment to reignite his competitive fire and make one more run at the level of dominance he was accustomed to. The mutual agreement was a professional framework built around a decision that TSR had to accept. The sprint car world was processing the shock of the split when the second bombshell dropped. The turnaround was stunningly quick. Donny Schatz wasn't going to be on the sidelines for long. In fact, he wasn't going to miss a single race. It was announced he would immediately pilot the Big Game Motorsports number 15, starting with the upcoming Minnesota doubleheader. The speed of this development speaks volumes. This wasn't a case of a driver suddenly becoming a free agent and fielding calls. This was a move that suggested pre-existing relationships and a plan that came together with remarkable efficiency. Schatz had a landing spot, and it was a prime one. For those unfamiliar, Big Game Motorsports is not a step down. This is a top-tier, professionally funded organization with elite equipment. The team is owned by Todd Kerry, a major figure in the sport, who is not just a team owner, but also the promoter of two of the Midwest's premier tracks, Jackson Motorplex and Houston Speedway. Kerry is deeply invested in the health and spectacle of sprint car racing. For Schatz, it was a seamless transition into another front-running operation. Furthermore, the personal connection cannot be overlooked. Both Schatz and Kerry are from North Dakota, a shared background that undoubtedly helped facilitate such a rapid high-stakes deal. Here's why the story takes a fascinating turn. The announcement specified that Schatz would be in the car for the next 3 weeks. This language is crucial. This isn't just a full season contract, it's a trial run, a feeling out process for both parties. This arrangement is a master stroke of low risk, high reward strategy for everyone involved. For Donny Schatz, it's the perfect scenario. He gets into a top tier quality car immediately, allowing him to stay on the road, stay sharp, and avoid any downtime. More importantly, he gets to evaluate a potential new home without making a long-term commitment. He can assess the team's culture, the equipment, and his chemistry with the new crew chief, all under real-world racing conditions. For Todd Kerry and Big Game Motorsports, it's an incredible coup. They get arguably the greatest driver of his generation in their car. And even if only for a short time, it's a massive publicity win and a golden opportunity to see if they can be the team that returns Schatz to championship form. It is in essence a try before you buy scenario with the living legend. Schatz, the suave veteran, is managing expectations perfectly. His public statements have been focused squarely on the immediate future. My focus is on the next 3 weeks and running those races, he said carefully, avoiding any speculation beyond the initial term. He's controlling the narrative, keeping his options open while giving this new partnership a legitimate chance to succeed. This 3-week deal represents a new way of doing business at the highest level of the sport, which we've seen in recent history. The traditional model of a locked-in season-long contract has been replaced by a flexible, data-driven beta test. It's a modern business-like approach where both team and driver are using a short-term, performance-based trial to inform what could be a multi-million-dollar, multi-year decision. This isn't just a temporary ride. It's a strategic live audition on the biggest stage in dirt racing. With Schatz's future settled for the short term, the question immediately shifted. Who could possibly fill the seat of the iconic TSR number 15? Well, the answer came in the form of veteran Australian driver, the Madman, Kerry Madsen. TSR announced that Madsen would take over the driving duties for the remainder of the 25 season. For Madsen, a universally respected and highly talented journeyman, this is the definition of a career-changing moment. After years of piecing together rides and running his own program, he has been handed the keys to the most decorated car in the sport. The journeyman veteran Kerry Madsen is no rookie. Hailing from St. Mary's, New South Wales, Australia, he is a proven winner with a long and successful career in the United States. His resume is stout: 28 World of Outlaws career feature wins, a past championship at the legendary Knoxville Raceway, and a victory in one of the sport's crown jewels, the King's Royal at Eldora Speedway. TSR didn't just pick a seat filler, they hired a legitimate, front-running talent who was in the right place at the right time. Madsen had been searching for a full-time top-tier ride, making him the perfect candidate. Experienced, available, and deeply motivated to make the most of the opportunity. The pressure on Madsen is almost unimaginable. He isn't just replacing any driver. He's replacing a 10-time champion. He isn't just driving any car. He's strapping into the 15, a number synonymous with Donny Schatz, and a decade of dominance. To his credit, Madsen understands the magnitude of the situation. In his own words, the expectation is there. I'm just going to do the best I can and see if we can get some race wins. It's a pragmatic, humble approach from a veteran who knows he can't be Donny Schatz. He can only be the best version of Kerry Madsen. Tony Stewart explained the rationale behind the choice, highlighting exactly what the team was looking for in the wake of the split. Kerry is a veteran driver who I've admired for a long time, Stewart said. His experience and his desire to be on the road full-time with the Outlaws is what we're looking for. This quote is revealing. After the departure of their franchise driver, TSR's priority was not to gamble on a young, unproven talent. Instead, they make a strategic pivot. The choice of Madsen is a calculated business decision. They needed a known quantity, a reliable professional who could step in immediately and deliver results for major sponsors like Ford Performance. Madsen is a plug-and-play veteran who can stabilize the team, keep the car competitive, and protect the organization's brand value. It's a move designed to reassure partners and steady the ship, prioritizing the immediate performance over a long-term rebuild. And if you thought the Schatz TSR split was the only season earthquake, you haven't been paying attention to the high limit side of the things. Just as the dirt racing was settling from that news, another major team announced a change. Jason Meyers Racing and their driver Spencer Bayston have also mutually agreed to part ways. This split happened the day after the prestigious Knoxville Nationals, another example of a high-profile team making a change at a critical point in the season. Bayston, who was sitting 11th in high-limit points, is now a free agent. JMR announced they are consolidating into one car, just for now, with a rising star, Corey Day, handling the driving duties of the number 14 machine as his schedule allows, starting with the upcoming West Coast Swing. It's another top ride with a new face behind the wheel, proving that the 2025 silly season has come brutally early. To really understand the stakes here, Let's break down the key players in this drama. Think of it as a tale of the tape for this monumental shakeup. First, you have Donny Schatz, the departing 10-time champion. His key stat is undeniable. Over 230 wins with TSR. His motivation? To prove he can still dominate in a new environment and cement his personal legacy as an all-time great, independent of any one team. Next, Tony Stewart, the legendary team owner. His accomplishment was building that dynasty from 2008 to 2025. What's at stake for him? Proving that Tony Stewart Racing is an elite organization that can win with other drivers, protecting his legacy as a top team owner. Then there's Kerry Madsen, the veteran successor. He's a 28-time Outlaw winner and a King's Royal champion. For him, this is the opportunity of a lifetime to prove that he belongs in top-tier, full-time ride and equipment and can win consistently at the highest level. And finally, Todd Kerry, the owner of Big Game Motorsports. He's a major track promoter and team owner. His motivation is clear: to elevate the Big Game Motorsports team from a top team to a winning championship-winning super team by landing the sport's biggest available star. Each player has a different motivation, and each has something significant to prove. And so, the stage is set for the public debut of this new world order. The World of Outlaws Tour rolls into Minnesota for a doubleheader weekend at Ogilvie Raceway and Jackson Motorplex. This is no longer just another pair of races on the schedule. This is the first battlefield. All eyes will be on the two cars, the Big Game Motorsports number 15 and the Tony Stewart Racing number 15 of Kerry Madsen, if the number actually stays the same. Adding another layer of intrigue to the weekend is the fact that the second stop, Jackson Motorplex, is owned by Todd Kerry. Donny Schatz will be making his debut for the track owner's team at the owner's home track. You couldn't write a more dramatic stop. As the green flag drops, there will be several key storylines that will unfold. First, for Schatz, how quickly can he adapt? The focus will actually be on his immediate speed and his chemistry with the new team. Does he look comfortable? Does he look rejuvenated? A strong run right out of the box would send a powerful message. And second, for Madsen, how does he handle the immense pressure? Can he qualify well, stay out of trouble, and run up front? A solid competitive showing would go a long way toward validating TSR's decision and quieting any doubters. And then there's the on-track dynamic we've never seen before. For the first time in nearly 18 years, Donny Schatz and the TSR team will be direct rivals on the racetrack. The first time they battle for the same piece of real estate will be a symbolic and highly anticipated moment. The tracks themselves could play a big role. Ogilvie is a newer venue for the series, which could level the playing field. Jackson, however, is a familiar battleground where the home track knowledge of Todd Kerry's organization could be a significant advantage for Donny Schatz. But beyond the mechanics and the track conditions, there's the human element, the nerves, the adrenaline, and the overwhelming desire to prove something will be at an all-time high for both drivers. A successful weekend might look different for each one. For Schatz, a top 5 finish and a feeling of comfort in the car would be a huge win. For Madsen, simply running competitively and finishing both nights with the car in one piece would be a successful debut under the circumstances. This first weekend is ultimately less about the final results on the box score and more about setting the narrative for the rest of the season. Early performance will disproportionately shape the public perception of whether these moves were a stroke of genius or a big mistake. If Schatz is immediately fast, the story becomes, he was right, he needed the change. If Madsen is competitive right away, the narrative shifts to, the TSR equipment is elite and they made a smart hire. The Minnesota doubleheader is a high-stakes public relations battle just as much as it is a race, and the results will be instantly interpreted as a referendum on the biggest driver swap in years. So what's coming up next? Well, like we said, the West Coast swing. Where does all this drama and change lead next? While the World of Outlaws head to Minnesota, the other major national tour, Kubota High Limit Racing, is waking from its post-Knoxville slumber and heading west. A grueling 3-week, 9-race West Coast swing kicks off this Friday at the notorious Thunderbolt Raceway in Tulare. This is where the high rollers, that's what the full-time drivers on the tour are called, will actually clash with the notoriously tough California locals. You'll have the series regulars like Brad Sweet, Rico Abreu, and Brett Marks looking to assist their dominance on the West Coast, but the theme of change continues here as well. Justin Sanders will be subbing for Aaron Reitzel in the Ridge and Sons number 87, and in another major storyline, California native Gio Scelzi has been tapped to fill in for the injured Tyler Courtney in the Clausen Marshall Racing number 7 BC, a team currently second in championship points. The long view and conclusion, reshaping the landscape, well, as we zoom out for this one weekend, the broader implications of this shakeup are massive. The entire landscape of the World of Outlaws has been altered. The championship race, for one, is turned on its head. This move effectively takes Donny Schatz out of contention for the 2025 title, but it introduces 2 re-energized drivers into the mix for individual race wins, complicating life for the current point leaders. The balance of power has also shifted. Does this move strengthen Big Game Motorsports into a new super team capable of winning championships for years to come? And does Tony Stewart Racing maintain its elite status with Kerry Madsen? The old stable power structure has been fractured, creating new potential rivalries and alliances. For Donny Schatz, this final chapter of his career will be defining. Does this move actually tarnish his time with TSR, or does it cement his status as a driver whose immense talent transcends any single team? If he finds victory lane and contends for titles with Big Game, it will be the ultimate proof of his individual greatness. For Tony Stewart, his legacy as a team owner is now at the crossroads. Is this the end of the TSR dynasty, or simply the beginning of a new chapter? His reputation is now tied to proving that the organization's incredible success was not solely dependent on one legendary driver. The performance of the TSR number 15 car with Kerry Madsen behind the wheel will be a test. And my final thoughts? A partnership that defined an era of sprint car racing is over, but as we've seen, it's not an isolated event. It's a symptom of a wider sea change happening across the sport. From the World of Outlaws to high limit racing, the deck is being shuffled in real time. The central questions we started with have now multiplied. Who will win those breakups? Can the legends find their old magic in new homes? Or can the successors rise to the occasion? The dynasties of yesterday are gone. The future of sprint car racing is unwritten. And the next chapters are being written this weekend on 2 different fronts. On the dirt of Minnesota and the underlights in California. That's going to do it for this episode. But remember, we bring you insane motorsports moments, professional breakdowns, and adrenaline-packed edits every single week. Whether you live for those sideways mudslinging dirt sliders or the rubber-throwing paint trading speed of NASCAR, you belong right here. Hit that subscribe button now so you never, ever miss a finish. Until next time, keep switching grooves. I'm Russ Fritz saying race hard, stay safe, and we'll see you there.